And so the fun begins. With steady hands and patience, this is very much so accomplishable. Basically, I hit it with a hammer. Well, that's interesting. Some interesting procedure we got going on here. What on earth is that? It looks like a seal. They're really ugly hose. Fantastic. What the? Yeah, let's try this again. What the hell? Though it might be hard to tell, this thing is no longer leaking coolant. And we're back with the 760, though she does look significantly harder to look at than she did the last time. As you can see, I've brutally mutilated this 6-liter V12. A functioning engine doesn't last very long around here. Basic gist of it is the filter housing is off to address a possible valve cover leak there. The upper cowling and cabin air filter assembly is removed to address a possible camshaft position sensor back there. To give you the vaguest of backstories to explain what we're going to be doing today, basically while I was testing the vehicle, I took it out a couple times and I was driving around and I was patting the gas because obviously we have a fuel system issue in this. And only after the third time taking her out driving and parked it here, came back in the morning and there was a lake of coolant beneath the car. The coolant seemed to be running off the air conditioning compressor, which led me to believe it might be the alternator which is right above it, because these are liquid cool alternators on BMW's V configuration engines. But only through a video posted by a guy that I don't remember his name because I believe it's like an abbreviation for a different car or something. Only through one of his excellent videos did I discover that a leak coming from that general area is probably caused by the notorious coolant transfer pipe failure which plagues the V configuration engines as well. Clearance on this car is incredibly tight and I guarantee camera angles are going to suck for the majority of most of this work. How we've gotten to this point so far though is very simple. Well, simple for BMW. Hydraulic fan clutch has been removed, crank pulley has been removed, both belts have been removed, and our water pump has also been removed. So today how we're going to address the coolant transfer pipe seal failure is through the Bimmer Fix method, which is a very common method and a million people have made videos on it, but I'm going to make one anyway. Let me tell you though, I was surprised to find out that Bimmer Fix's silicone insert to fix the coolant transfer pipe failure issue was as expensive as it was. For a small piece of metal about that big, I believe it was about $320 plus $70 shipping, so it ended up being like $390 Canadian or something like that. So prior to me making that investment, I wanted to make sure I knew exactly what I was looking at. Need something to gesticulate with. Oh, I didn't even get an extendable one. Although the camera angles will be terrible, what the screwdriver is pointing at here is not a bolt hole, but it is the weep hole that goes into the valley pan of the engine beneath the intake manifold. Basically the front seal between a transfer pipe that goes directly out from the water pump output through the center of the engine to the rear of the engine, which supplies the heater core assembly. The front seal will fail, causing that valley pan to fill with coolant, and it can only hold so much before it comes out that weep hole and ends up on the ground of your garage. And I will probably use clips from somebody else's video because they had more things removed and were able to get better camera angles here. The reason I suspected that this was the cause of our issue is because coolant will supposedly flow down that sloped angle there beneath the water pump around the crank pulley and will follow the natural shape of the housing down, where it will fall directly under the air conditioning compressor and the alternator general area. However, before I make a $400 investment, I wanted to be sure that that's where the coolant was coming from. So the plan was simple. Remove the water pump so slowly and carefully that all the fluid will just barely dribble out of it, leaving all the witness marks, which is all the dry coolants, and leaving a trail that'll show exactly where all my coolant that landed on the floor was coming from. With steady hands and patience, this is very much so accomplishable. Let me tell you exactly how my careful water pump removal went. Basically, I hit it with a hammer, damaged the water pump, and now a new one is coming for replacement. My excuse for that was because I wanted parts to come as soon as possible so I can hopefully get as much driving in with this car before winter comes. We had a slowdown on my work, so I took off 3 hours early, and I had a time crunch to get this done as soon as I can because I had to go back and do shift work the next day. So while working in a rush, I missed this bolt right here because it sits behind the crank pulley. And because these engines are so rare and limited, I didn't bother looking for a video on how to remove one of these, because I assumed there wouldn't be much material on that anyway. It was only after using a hammer on the pulley like that, knowing how BMW water pumps are like this one, they can be incredibly seized, so the fact that I was missing a bolt was not apparently obvious to me, and I thought it had to just break her loose there. In hindsight though, the reason that this one you have to use push bolts to remove, or break it loose with a hammer, is because it has a flange that recesses into the engine, so you have to carefully pry it out. I knew full well that this one does not have that system, and yet I still made the attempt. It was only after I realized that the V configuration engines have the exact same belt drive, so the N62 V8 has the exact same water pump, was able to find a video that confirmed yes, the crank pulley had to come off and there was a bolt behind it that you wouldn't have been able to see otherwise. So because I was desperate to sink another $70 $70 into this project. I got a water pump coming from Amazon and it'll be here in a couple days. Charge it to the streets. In addition though, in the process of my very destructive removal technique, I did remove all the witness marks coming from the weep hole since coolant splashed everywhere and ruined it. So my next plan of attack was simple. All the work prior to this had been done with the vehicle up on blocks, as you can see here. So my solution was that I'd use a jack to lift it off the blocks, remove the blocks, and set it down, and because the engine will be further forward, it'll cause coolant to potentially flow out of the weep hole if it is coming from there. And all I had to do was watch, so I recorded a video. Yeah, so while that test did seem pretty inconclusive, it didn't really matter because in the footage I can see the condition of the seal itself. Just looking at the actual seal, you can see that there's material being expelled inward. There's threads of rubber seal coming down and it looks all chewed up. Looks pretty compromised if you ask me. So with that, I decided we'd be going the Bimmer Fix route anyway. Another thing I was thinking about doing but then never did was apparently another way you can check to confirm if that seal is leaking is by actually putting a blowgun into the weep hole and carefully pressurizing the system and seeing if air or aerated coolant comes out of the coolant transfer pipe to water pump outlet. And that'll tell you whether your seal's gone. I am excited to unpackage Bimmer Fix's repair kit though. I particularly like that they packaged this flushing agent in the same Ziploc bag that I used to put steaks in the freezer. But very well packaged. Packaged like a kilo of cocaine or something. Yeah, very nice display for use with the N73 V12 engine. I like that they included that directly on the box. It even comes with a letter signed by the owner thanking you for purchasing the product. And of course, very detailed instructions as to how to fix it. Very nice display and setup. Even comes with a number of pair of gloves, which are nice to include. The only negative thing to say about this kit is that all this additional stuff is a lot of fluff. Like this piece alone is not $400, but I'm looking forward to this. I use an empty paper towel roll to explain exactly what we're doing with this here. Basically what we're doing here, this is the front cover of our engine, and this is our coolant transfer pipe. The seal between these two items has failed, so what we're doing is siliconing this piece to our front cover, also siliconing this piece to our transfer pipe. So the seal, which would be sitting right in the middle there, will actually never see coolant because it'll be sealed on both sides of the seal, so the seal will be obsolete at that point. And the reason that this is the go-to fix for this job is because in order to remove that transfer pipe requires removal of the front cover of the engine, which as you can see, there are many things in there, as well as removal of the intake manifold, the fuel rails, and the valley pan, which you need seals and everything for all of that. Or you can skip removal of the front cover by getting an extendable pipe, which you then chop the original one into pieces, lower one in, and fix it into place like that. That still requires intake manifold seals, valley pan gaskets, seals, and for you to remove all of that shit. And on top of that, that is a significantly more expensive option. The cheapest repair option if you're going that direction was Euro Parts from what I found, and I actually really like Euro Parts as a company. But even then I was spending close to over $300. And that's before you buy any of the seals required to actually do the job. This is a significantly less labor oriented option as well, which is what I like. Right here in red letters they say don't remove the air conditioning belt because it can be difficult to reinstall. We're past that, so we'll see how that goes. Please excuse the fact that there's a terrible thunderstorm going on right now, which wasn't happening 5 minutes before I decided to record. Yeah, I mean, like you say, don't say no. First step is to inspect with your index finger whether there's anything that's going to obstruct the stent from inserting into the cavity. You're then asked to use an X-Acto knife to cut away any material that will obstruct it, but I don't have an X-Acto knife because I kind of just moved in here. However, it didn't stop whoever made this photo because they're using a kitchen knife to cut away any excess material, which is what I will do. Okay, now equipped with the tools of the expert, let's see how this goes. They do specify not to remove the seal in its entirety. I don't exactly know how you do that though, because it should be sandwiched between a housing. They do also specify that there's possible casting marks that may need to be sanded down in order for the stent to fit properly. The seal that's in there feels incredibly biased towards one side. I can feel like a whole groove towards the bottom left side. May need new kitchen utensils after the end of this, but I'm fairly certain kitchen utensils are cheaper than a coolant transfer pipe. Okay, I think I've removed as much of the remainder of the seal that I can. From here, I'm going to go in there and try to clean up as much of the debris as I can. Some material. And there they give you this sanding rod, which is a piece of wood with sandpaper strapped to it, but very nice they include this. Wow, this works really well. That removes some more of the rubber seal there too. The sanding is to remove the potential casting lip that they refer to, but also because a rougher surface is easier for silicone to bond to. I'm trying to just keep it as deep in as I can, and then make sure I apply like a pressure to it while I turn it in each of the directions so I can get all 360 degrees of this cleaned up. Sanding rod's also good at getting the remainder of that excess seal here. Top and to the right needs a little more attention. I have to do this reverse stance over and over again. Oh yeah, that's pretty damn smooth. See some of the debris that's building up there? Oh yeah, that's pretty smooth. I can still feel a small ridge of where the original seal was, but it's probably as good as they want this. They also say it is a good idea to have the front of the vehicle elevated so the coolant does run to the back, which will ensure that no coolant is compromising your sealant as it's drying. Oh, how very smart. They say I should do exactly what I did during a method of testing. They say if you pick the front end of the vehicle up and put it down on the ground, coolant will flow to the front and flush any debris out. Because I've already done that, it might not do anything, but we'll give it a shot. Jack is still covered in coolant. And I'm just lifting on the cross member in the middle of the car. Oh, fuck, still missing. I was better at it that time than the time prior to this, as you can see by the coolant residue everywhere. The next step is to use this sponge to absorb as much of the material as you can. I'm going to use brake clean to clean the inside before I use the tooling. I hit this reverse stance here. Alright, now we'll go on with this. That works pretty well. You can see how clean we got it there. Nothing's coming out on this. Test fit the stent. I was hoping that part would come up. Should slide in and out with minimal resistance. I got like some play, so I got essentially zero resistance. They say to use a black marker to mark the stent. That doesn't tell you how far this is supposed to protrude in there. Should I go until it bottoms out? I mean, that's what I'll do because no other information is telling me otherwise. I don't know if you can see that, but that worked alright. It's nice they give you multiple pairs of gloves, I must say. Although a larger size glove would be nice. That's quite the bead they tell you to put down there. Before I put a bead on my index, I'm going to figure out which hand I want to use for this. Okay, potentially right, but there are limited spots. Okay, left hand is the hand, but there is a portion where I almost break my wrist. So that's better than the alternative. Kind of trying to jam it into all the gaps as it in trucks here. It did seem like a piece of my seal was missing because I could feel like a groove with almost nothing inside of it. And I say that because that's exactly what it says in this book right here. It's possible the seal could even be missing. I'm gonna use even more sealant here. You only got one shot at this, right? I'm gonna have to do some cleaning after this. This gets all over your engine components. And pay particular attention to the area where I know the groove was almost empty. Feel it right there. All right, now it's directing me to use this sponge to apply more. But it does make note not to go past the red stripe on the handle. I wonder if that's because this could get stuck or because if you don't want sealant that far, which in that case is my finger. No, I couldn't have gone that far. Instructions do get a little lenient onto exactly how much sealant you want to use. I'm tempted just to go on the higher side because you only got one shot. Could have had more paper towels and stuff ready because I got it all over electrical connectors and stuff. They say the stent should be completely coated on the outside. Carefully flipping the page now that two hands are in on this. Okay, moment of truth. says use the tip of a flat blade screwdriver to ensure that it is flush with the housing. I'm gonna shit a pair of gloves here. This knife will also do the trick. Actually, that's a kitchen knife. I won't get silicone on it. My water pump housing, I don't know if you can see that, but the inside of my water pump housing does not look like theirs. So I'm just gonna push it in as far as I can and pray that's good. We are then asked to use the camera of a phone to validate that nothing's going on inside of this thing, but that requires me to kill the recording because I'm using my phone as a microphone. Okay, so as we've seen in that video there, it does look pretty free of blockage. There was one little piece of silicone string that was on the right side of the housing there. I went in with my finger and I was able to remove most of that obstruction, so I think we'll be okay in that department. You're then instructed to immediately insert this all the way to the black, a clean one, without any obstruction. Seems like our stent has remained seated despite us sticking something in there. And at this point, it calls for extensive cleanup around the area. Though I can't see, I'm trying to clear up where the O-ring for the water pump mounts to the front cover and continuously make sure this thing is seated all the way, because they say it will interfere with your water pump otherwise. And in that case, I think I'd probably just modify the water pump. We'll see once we actually have a water pump to modify. I don't know if the camera's gonna pick up the same angle of the mirror that I can see, but I think it's decently clean around there. I think if this water pump eats a bit of silicone, it's not that critical. Water pumps are disposable. Well, obviously they're disposable. I've already broken one. I'm afraid to really go in there and remove any of the residual material that's kind of just stuck to the side of the stent, in the case that I might compromise the sealing of the stent itself. I want to make carefully with the rag, twisting action. Oh yeah, that didn't do anything, but oh well. Job's gonna be a bit messy. I'm not looking for perfection. I'm just looking for this to be sealed. I'd rather my water pump eat some silicone than my seal not work and then back to square one and then I have to pull the transfer pipe out. And with that, it says we need 24 hours for this to seal, which is perfect because my water pump's still probably a couple days away. So I will leave that exactly where it is and we will recommence once I have a water pump. We are back and we have a water pump. Courtesy of Amazon, so the cheapest quality we could get. Right off the bat, did not come with a thermostat gasket. Fortunately, because I didn't intend on replacing the water pump, I actually got all the seals for it when I bought all my fuel system related components, and I did include a thermostat gasket. We also have 2 water pump gaskets, but that's okay. Rather too many than not enough. So we'll swap some jewelry over and we'll install this. It does give us an opportunity to try out some new technology here. Lubricate the seal with a bit of coolant. Coolant is not good for your bare hands, by the way, and if you need any proof of that, you can look at both of my arms currently, these spots all over them. That's because I was laying in a puddle of coolant underneath the machine. Google tells me the torque spec is 8 pounds. I have no vise available, so a bit of an overkill method. Works. Gonna hope this is a reusable seal. Ooh. Gotta watch that staple that really wants to take my water pump seal out. Oh, that's interesting. On one of those hoses I found, it appears to be like old Vaseline, so I wonder if they replaced this water pump recently. That'd explain why there's so much metal in the cooling system. Guide kindly reminds us that bolt 1 is longer than the rest. It'd be really nice if we could remove this shroud, but it looks like there's a lot of things attached to it. It's not immediately obvious how to do so. Getting this in will be just as fun as it was trying to get it out. This bracket really wants to cut my seal. Oh, okay. 4 bolts, I'll take it out. Okay, a million hoses in the way. Confirm our seal is still in place. That's only questionably holding there. I'm gonna assume we're binding on that lower hose. Yes, we are. Oh, this hose is not flexible. That has to go in first. And so the fun begins. Okay, looks like that's in. I don't know if you can see that tube getting pulled in. Okay, now for the rest of these terrible bolts. Reference, just 3 more. One down there, and off to the right there. Started, but very difficult to access. Okay, got it started. Also very difficult to access. Right, 3 in. Can't wait to try to find all these again with a torque wrench. Oh, stone above the hose I'm missing. This should be fun. I believe the book said removing the belt tensioner would help. I'm stubborn. Very easy for your hands to get jammed up underneath one of these rad hoses, and then you kind of force, yeah, you can see the damage I've already caused. You kind of force the hoses into the radiator trying to get your hands out. Fuck. Why won't you start? Wish I had something slightly shorter. These are all the same length. Oh, that burns. That's the sound of my skin getting scraped off by the fan shroud. Look at all that dead skin that just came off my arm. Yeah, that's what used to be my skin. Fuck. Okay, moment of truth. Does our water pump spin? So far, it seems like yes. As things warm up and expand, who knows what they'll do, but I'll also be supposed to figure that out. Oh, still good. Oh my, simply not enough room. Fuck. Oh my word. Do I even want to attempt to get this bolt from down here? This is a risky move with my expensive device. There's no way this actually works. Okay, torque wrench is on there, barely balancing. I'm surprised that actually worked. Okay, that's all the bolts. Now, will the hoses cooperate with us? That ice cream truck can leave at any point. Nobody wants ice cream, buddy. This may be a detrimental mistake. I'm gonna try to assist this hose on. There's no way this doesn't go bad. Yeah, that hose is on and clicked into place. I feel like in the past I've had history where these hoses, although there's clearly a bit of play there, they seal up and fluid's flowing through them. Aside from the fan clutch, this is still a pretty relatively moderate difficulty task that anyone who doesn't have that much experience pulling wrenches could probably still put together. It's crazy how those seal when you look at them and they're that loose. I don't know if you heard that, but that one clicked into place. Fuck me. Damn, I'm never finding that one. It's on the frame somewhere. Oh, look at that. God, it was merciful to us today. I actually really like this design for radiator hoses. Before I go any further with that though, Bimmer Fix's flushing agent says to be installed to the upper rad hose and not to the coolant reservoir. It says to leave it in for 200 miles, but I live in Canada, so I don't really know what that means. It says it does not need to be removed after the fact. Since our upper rad hose isn't very flexible, we're going to use this to feed it into our radiator. Well, that's interesting. Why is this plugged? Yeah, it's a garage floor. Not going swimmingly. Need a secondary funnel to remove it from the first funnel. What exactly is in this conditioner? Whatever that gray material is, like, completely clogged the screen on this thing. There's some interesting procedure we got going on here. I see why they say not to put it into your reservoir. They said it can clog small coolant lines. I can see that as a possibility. Okay, let's try this again using a different funnel. One without a screen this time, because obviously this stuff is too. Look at that. What even is that? Oh, I want to say I do remember this though. The tang interferes with something above it on this one. There are two grooves and the one that's vertical has to go. What if I snap that right there? Oh, okay, that is all the hoses on. Before we get too far here, that's no good. We have a new one here, courtesy of Canadian Tire. Nice. This is where we should play the game of what direction is my belt turned so I know if it's a left-handed pulley or a right-handed pulley. I'm getting too tired to play that game here. I think we might just play wing it. The left-handed bolt, but you almost couldn't get that off just because of that hose is in the way. Looks like this goes directly into the side of the alternator. Quite the interesting design. Gotta go reverse arm again. Much better. Okay, now time for the crank pulley and all 8 of the bolts. Oh, it's awkward and heavy. How did I get this spun around backward in there? Thought I chose to put this on before the water pump pulley. Oh my goodness, what's happening? I think this interferes with the other belt tensioner. That is really stupid. Oh, this is a good one. Here's a dowel so this can't be misaligned. How did I get it out the first time? I just got lucky? Oh my fucking eye. How's that possible? What the fuck? I mean, the ratchet there kind of closes off the gap I was going to use to... Okay, I'm going to leave that on for now. I think the dowel just popped in. Alright, want to make sure that dowel's in. Jeez, it's hard to say, but I almost wanted to say our dowel might be in a bolt hole. That is why we check things, though. I think the dowel is directly vertical. What on earth is that? That looks like a seal. Is that a seal for something we did today? Oh my. Oh, there's also a push bolt, just to make it even more fucking complicated. There's a hole that has threads in it. Mirror's not working. We're going to newer technology. We are one hole over to the, we need to go counterclockwise. Just keep my damn flash on. We're in the exact same place. We gotta go one hole over counterclockwise again. I know these have a pin somewhere. I don't feel like trying to find it. Okay, let's hope that doesn't take her fingers off. It needs to come back. It needs to rotate to the left. An incredibly small amount. You're on something there. Why no flash? Why do you not give me options to... No, you were still in the same hole, just in a different portion of the slot. Oh, I lost it. That looks good from afar. Boom, in the dowel. Simple as that. Okay, so that can't come out. Oh, that shroud just hurts so bad. I gotta back that bolt off because I tightened up this spacer, misaligned. Is that seated straight? Okay, so we got that started, but I gotta take a break for the day. I got things to do today, so I'll see you again tomorrow. Okay, and we're back. Day 3, let's wrap this up here. Last night I made the discovery that this was laying on top of some of our power steering hoses here. Didn't think much of it at the time because I assumed it could have just been from a residual failure. I don't think this could be a seal that came from another hose that's been replaced at a previous maintenance interval. This car drove all the way from Calgary with no belly pans on it, and that would not have survived on top of those hoses. And I can't help but notice that taper on the side of that seal is a pretty damn perfect fit for these two fittings right here. So I do believe this is a seal for one of our rad hoses. Now, I was under the impression that the seals were actually integral with the hoses because you can't actually buy this part that I'm holding from BMW. You have to replace the entire hose. My suspicion is that this is out of the first hose that we put on, which is on the right side. Remember I was saying that it was like hoses were relatively loose? Well, that is true because all of these hoses will be relatively loose. I think that one was particularly loose, and the other one I remember gave us some troubles also because like the locking tag did not have enough clearance with whatever was above it. Our upper rad hose is full of fluid, most likely, unfortunately. Try not to lose too much of it. Oh, there's fluid in that hose. Oh, interesting. Oh, don't get that stuck in there. I think there already is one of these seals in this hose. Which means it's the really ugly hose that I didn't want to have to deal with. That hose should be dry at least. For fuck's sakes. Yep, this one has nothing in it. Now when it comes to lubricating seals, it's always recommended that you lubricate the seals with the fluid that the seal will be in contact with. However, I don't like lubricating seals with coolant because I don't think coolant is slippery enough. Vaseline is typically used to lubricate seals. However, this is absolutely not the Vaseline they're referring to. Usually you're referring to just petroleum jelly. I'm going to use this anyway because I think it's hilarious. And I don't think it can hurt anything. And because this seal's gone on an adventure, we need to give it its best fighting chance, otherwise I'll probably have to replace this hose. That was a good catch though, because that could have been... I was going to just run the car and figure out which hose leaks from there, but we just put all that additive into our radiator, so I really wouldn't want to have to drop the fluid again. Okay, back to square one. Install this cap before we forget. It looks like that cap's seated all the way. Wouldn't want it to jump out and interfere with the belt somehow. That cap was for a different pulley though, so it doesn't fit perfectly. Okay, I've gone and installed the remainder of the 8 crankshaft pulley bolts while we were off camera. As for a torque spec for these crankshaft pulley bolts, I could not find one. However, in hindsight, it does look like there is Loctite on these. They didn't really feel like they were Loctited, so I wonder if that's just corrosion. I'm gonna skip the Loctite today because there is 8 of these. As for what to torque these to, no fucking clue. I cannot find a spec as to what these bolts are to be torqued to. The N62s have 6 bolts, so they'd be different sizes. I did find a page that says the N55 has 8 bolts, but they're E-Torx bolts, so they're not actually the same bolts. However, the spec they gave for it was 35 Newton meters, which ends up being 25 foot-pounds. And it's an 8mm bolt, and the standard spec for 8mm bolts at my work is around 25, so I'm gonna go ahead and say that's probably a safe bet to torque these to the same spec. And I can continue monitoring this car, so if I see anything weird happening with that pulley, I'll go back in and reassess. The N55 page that I was looking at says you're supposed to torque it in a star pattern. That's gonna be very difficult because I can't actually see any of the bolts. So because I don't have a good selection of extensions here, I'm going to use an adapter to 1/2" drive on my 1/2" drive bar, and hopefully that'll be just enough length to get this, but it is very overkill. Fuck. Oh, I gotta check the damn camera after that one. The thing about the electric one is it'll turn off, and then you don't even know if you're doing anything. It's alarming that we haven't reached 25 yet. I don't know if that's because we're seating it. Okay. That is doing everything but hitting 25. Why won't you torque? Doesn't look stretched. It's gotta be seated. Do I continue trying to get these bolts to torque to 25 and risk doing damage to my vibration dampener? Oh wait, they're all getting torqued to 20, I guess. Okay, now it'll go to 22. See if it'll hit 25 now. Could be that it wasn't seated before. Okay, so it did reach. Truthfully, I can't be asked to do all 8 of them in star pattern just because I can't see them, and I won't know if I'm torquing a bolt that's already been torqued. So I'll just do 4 corners and then I'll do a circle. Beautiful. Okay, so these bolts are scaring me and they don't really want to hit 25, so 23 is the torque spec that we just have to live with. Alright, I think that's all of them. Water pump pulley. I've had just one too many times that I do all this work and don't replace the belt, then the belt fails. So I'm gonna go ahead and say a contributing factor to that is probably all the coolant that I've spilt all over these pulleys. This coolant dissolves belts, if you didn't know. They say this belt can be tricky to get on and off. I'll be the judge of that. Okay, a little bit of finesse to it, but I don't think it was that bad. This is the second BMW that I've worked on, by the way, that when the belt tension is relieved of tension, it contacts something else, which makes it difficult to put the belt on. This car had the exact same issue, if I remember correctly. This one's just in a little bit more of a stupid spot. Okay, water pump pulley. Let's not torque it at 25. How about 8? Done. Put this bracket back on. The belt looks okay. It's a weird design for a belt though. I've never seen one like that actually. They're both like that. Let's see what Google tells us that the belt drive looks like. Okay, this is that one photo that I've had to use for reference before that doesn't focus for some reason. Alternator, water pump, back to tensioner, round the crank, or the AC compressor, round the idler. Let's see exactly how well we can make that happen. Feed the belt around the idler first. Fantastic. Fuck me. Oh, and we're like, okay, we're like back to square one. Stay on the crank pulley, please. We're hung up around the crank pulley, but that at least gives me a chance to take a break. We're around the idler okay, we are around the alternator okay, around the tensioner, we're around the water pump okay, around the AC compressor. Yeah, let's just readjust for the crank. All right, I think we're good there. Okay, fan clutch. Should be a 32, but a 1 1/4 seems to do the same thing. Seems to be easier going in. Now what am I hung up on? Oh, I remember being in this position. Oh, there we go. This is lefty tighty, righty loosey. This one's a little easier to reach than on the X5. Thread on, you piece of shit. Okay, I figured out the angle which it wants to thread on at. I can just kind of match. Okay, we're gone. One day I will get the proper tools to install these. It's not today. And with that, I believe that might be everything that we can do for this portion of the job. We can fill the coolant reservoir, but it's not attached because I needed to get this air filter housing out. Probably at least I can stage this. That's where it's supposed to be. We can fill it up. And then when I put the cap on and have to move it again in order to move this, like nothing should spill out. We should be good there. Truthfully, it doesn't make any sense to do that though, because the next video you're going to see is going to be related to the fuel system, which is the main reason why this car doesn't run all that great right now. And I need the auxiliary pump in order to purge all the air out of the system, but the second I press the start button, it's going to prime the fuel pump. And I don't want any pressure in this line if I don't have to. So with that, that's our cooling system reassembled. Had some hiccups along the way, but with a vehicle of this nature, that's going to happen. I'm now going to end the video and start recording my fuel system maintenance video, and you'll see that in a later point, and then at that point we'll see if the engine runs or not. Alright, she's filled the coolant. Coolant's still not cycling, but that's probably because the auxiliary pump's not working. You just have to run it. What is that sound? I'm hearing a scraping sound. I wonder if that's the water pump scraping on the stent, getting better flow out of the cooling system. See all those sparkles in there? What the fuck happened there? Yeah. Awesome. Yep. I think there was an air bubble somewhere in the system there. What the fuck? The reservoir is empty now. That's a lot of coolant. Oh, well, here you go, you thirsty bitch. Didn't like the last coolant I put into you, but hopefully you'll actually take some of this. All right, let's try this again. Oh, nice. Where's this coolant gonna go? Up right here over to the upper ad hose. Terrible. I can pause this and I'm going to tell you exactly what happened here. You've seen the coolant coming out of this hose here. I didn't know what exactly was going to happen with this because I'm not familiar with this car. This is the bleed hose where it pumps air and like coolant out. Follow it. It runs all the way back here along our fan shroud up into our upper ad hose, which if you remember, we poured a bunch of that like thick sealant and conditioner into. That plugged our bleed line. It's no longer plugged, but because of that, it was trying to pump tons and tons of air throughout the system. And eventually one of those air bubbles found its way back to the reservoir. That is one negative comment I will say about the Bimmer Fix solution here so far. Fuck's sakes. What the hell? Like, there's no way we're overheating. Like, I don't think we're overheating. Like, it can't be, unless our thermostat's not working. How much more fucking coolant can I dump on my floor? Fox wells are really cheap, but because of that, they're really slow. Coolant level low. What makes you think so? I have no idea how else we're gonna bleed this. I'm gonna track this all over my house. Oh yeah, I gotta shut the video down for a bit. Okay, we're back. So I think the overflowing is solely as a result of the engine getting up to operating temperature and it's boiling over because it's not being held under pressure, which I think the average automotive mechanic would know, but I feel like on these, I've ran them without the rad cap for indefinite amounts of time and never had them overflow. I've done this on 3 different vehicles, so I got videos doing it on the Jag twice, and I think I have videos doing it on this one. The newer generation does have a higher thermostat, though. I believe it might be 90 on both of these here. But I went to my dad's place, borrowed his scanner, came back, I was running it, and it doesn't seem like it's overheating or anything now that I have the rad cap on it. I also can't see if the level is dropping or anything like that. It's not my best performance here. I thought I had my facts together before recording, but I guess not. The reason the expansion tank was overflowing is because most vehicles have a 97-degree thermostat. Newer age BMWs have a 105-degree thermostat. The boiling point of water is 100 degrees. And that's why new age BMWs can't run without the rad cap on. But once I had an understanding of how the boiling point of water works, everything worked out okay, so. We will go for a drive though. Temperature's down now. The second I rev it up or start driving, either the fan will kick in or the air will start moving enough that it keeps the temperature lower. Though it might be hard to tell because of the lake of coolant caused by my own stupidity. This thing is no longer leaking coolant. So far anyway. That being said, it looks like the coolant transfer pipe stent that Bimmer Fix offered actually did solve the problem. So I'd like to do a little conclusion on the whole project here. I said before we started that there was a lot of fluff involved with this, but in hindsight, mainly that just is because they send you gloves, like, you know what I mean? Aside from that, everything else, I'm very gracious that they actually send you this many of these. That's very, like, that's a nice little added touch. The fact they send you multiple pairs of gloves is nice. Everything here is all well put together. A lot of attention to detail. And as you can see, the people that are creating this solely because they want to keep these cars on the road. So it's only through the actual care for the engineering of BMW that like something like this even exists. That being said, I'm very satisfied and I love the presentation. You know what I mean? Everything's presented in such a very nice way. I even cleaned up the Bimmer Fix bottle because it was covered in silicone. I cleaned it all up solely so I could put that back in there, those right there. Put the letter here, close this up, and keep the box as a memento to remember the project that we did here. As for this stuff, I still question the use of this stuff here. It still scares me a bit just because it is so thick and does clog up things so fast. As you can see, our bleed valve was not bleeding properly, and I assume that's because it pumped a bunch of this crap into that tube there. But now it seems to be doing okay, but that's my only little jive. But this thing, aside from that, great product, would recommend. I'm halfway through doing the fuel video here. Unfortunately, we ran into an error with parts, which you'll probably find out in the future because I'll post the next video. I just thought I'd wrap up the cooling system with there. So if you watched this far, thank you for watching.